Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Monsters of the Past Revisited. And today, okay, I'm done doing that. I was just doing that for a bit, because sloths. Anyway, today we're talking about the giant ground sloth, Megatherium. Megatherium means great beast, and it was a member of the Megatheridae family. It was an herbivore, but some speculate it could be omnivorous, but those theories are controversial, as we'll talk about in a second. And it lived in South America from the Pliocene to only a few thousand years ago. Megatherium was a big animal. These guys could be the size of an elephant. They were first discovered in 1787, before even the first dinosaurs were found. But at first, nobody quite knew what they were. It wasn't until 9 years later that a comparison was done between their bones and sloth bones that it was found out it was a giant sloth, and thus it was given the name Megatherium americanum, or the great beast from America. And fun fact, Megatherium was actually the first extinct animal to be classified, unless you count animals that were classified then went extinct, like the auroch or the great auk, but you know what I mean. Megatherium, despite being a sloth, had quite the different lifestyle from its cousins. You see, the modern sloths have a very slow life in the trees, while Megatherium was a humongous animal that lived on the ground, and it probably wasn't as slow as the tree sloths. In addition, while the tree sloth is a rather lowly animal, all things considered, the Megatherium had little to fear. Not only was it massive, but it also had the claws of modern sloths. Since they didn't climb trees, these are most likely used for grabbing branches to feed on, and, saber-tooth stalking you, you could rip their throat out, maybe. Also, some people think Megatherium is responsible for the distribution of avocado seeds before they went extinct, so that's a thing. In the 2000s, probably because of how big they are, a theory was proposed that Megatherium was actually omnivorous, eating both plants and meat, but most scientists refute this because of a lack of evidence. Also, pretty much all of Megatherium's reconstructions give them a hairy coat, but given their size and climate they lived in, some actually suggest maybe Megatherium only had light amounts of fur, or they were like elephants where they were pretty much bald except for some patches here and there. But of course, this was still during the Ice Age, so it's possible that areas all around got kinda chilly and Megatherium had some coating. No one can quite agree on if Megatherium should be given fur or not. Megatherium went extinct around 12,000 years ago, which is also around the same time humans first entered the Americas. It's probably just a coincidence. Another enlarged xenothere that happened to be a contemporary of Megatherium was the giant armadillo Doedicurus. Doedicurus means pestle tail, like mortar and pestle, and it was a member of the Chlamyphoridae family. I think that's how you pronounce that. And it was an herbivore that lived in South America from the Pleistocene to only a few thousand years ago. While modern armadillos are quite infamous for their relationship with cars, Doedicurus was the size of a car, so if you got in a wreck with them, you'd be the roadkill. Or maybe they would too, I don't know how they would. I don't know how well defended they were against a strike from a Honda, but whatever. Doedicurus was part of a group known as glyptodonts, massive armadillos that had huge shells, and some had spiky tail clubs like an ankylosaur. Some speculate they were used for defense, but we also have direct evidence they were used to hit each other, probably during mating season. Although the defense thing is also questionable, as some speculate they would have had terrible eyesight and therefore terrible coordination, so they think they would have had a hard time hitting a moving target. So some say they were used for defense, others say they weren't. They were probably just used for mating, according to some people. Who knows? So considering the shell and the club, it seems likely that predators like terror birds or saber-teeth would have rarely gone after them, kind of like how rhinos are a rare target for predators given how well defended they are. Doedicurus went extinct roughly the same time as Megatherium. Again, it's probably just a coincidence, there was probably just a flood or a massive fire or something. Another contemporary of these guys was the strange horse-like Macrauchenia. For the longest time, these guys were thought to have trunks like a tapir, but nowadays most people think they actually just had a big moose-esque nose. They have nothing to do with any of these guys, I just wanted to bring them up to inform you of that. With both Megatherium and Doedicurus, they're pretty good. Maybe you could argue Megatherium should be hairless, but like I said, that's debatable and nothing's set in stone yet, so you can't definitively call that an error. Cenozoic animals are among the best age, since after all, we have a frame of reference for how they could look and act, so as such, the Cenozoic animals are a lot better age than the dinosaur or Paleozoic cards. That's all for this episode of Monsters of the Past, and next time, well, it's not another Monsters of the Past. Rather, it's time for the Big 300 special, baby. And be prepared, because you're gonna need an archive. See you next time.